Welcome to the Adaptation Fund's Enhanced Direct Access Project Proposal Preparation Training. The training is comprised of 3 sections. Section 1 provides a walkthrough of the EDA project proposal form. This section is supported with insights and ideas to strengthen your EDA proposal. Section 2 is a case study from Rwanda, and Section 3 is a review of our learning. The full training takes 18 minutes to complete. You can pause at any time to apply part of the training or take a break and return at your leisure. The aim of the training is to support the preparation and development of high-quality EDA grant proposals. The objectives of the training are to understand the EDA project proposal templates and navigate through the information required for a strong proposal. This project proposal training is complemented by a training video on EDA which covers an overview of EDA, examples of EDA, and resources for project proposal development. It is recommended that you also watch this video. Section 1. The EDA Proposal Template. The project proposal template for EDA has 4 parts. Part 1 is the project information. Part 2 is the project justification. Part 3 is the implementation arrangements. And Part 4 is the requirement for letters of endorsement from the government and the implementing entity. The length of the proposal should not exceed 50 pages for the concept, including its annexes, and 100 pages for the fully developed project document, and up to 100 further pages for its annexes. Part 1, the project information, is composed of 5 sections. Start the proposal by entering your country name, national implementing entity name, and the amount of financing you are requesting. The maximum finance request per project is $5 million, and a country can only request 1 EDA project proposal. It is important to add the words Enhanced Direct Access to the project category. The background and context of the project should indicate the focus area for EDA and a description of the problem that needs to be solved. The objectives of the EDA project must be listed in the form of a clear overall goal, followed by a description of the main objectives. The components and financing and the calendar are both completed using tables provided in the template. The components and financing table, Part 1, Section 4, must be filled out using the provided template. Start by listing the project components, the expected concrete outputs, and the expected outcomes. Provide budget for each component. The project execution costs must not be more than 12% of the total budget requested before the implementing entity fees. In the case of an implementing entity acting as an executing entity for a project, execution costs are capped at 1.5%. The project cycle management fees, the implementing entity fee, should not be more than 10% of the total budget requested. Part 2 of the proposal form is the project justification. The project justification contains 11 sections, A to K. A. Describe the project components, particularly focusing on the concrete adaptation activities of the project and how these activities contribute to climate resilience. Clearly articulate the EDA model and LLA solutions here. B. Describe how the project provides benefits, economic, social, and environmental, with particular reference to the most vulnerable groups and communities, including gender considerations. C. Provide or describe an analysis of the cost-effectiveness of the proposed project. D. Describe how the project is consistent with national or subnational sustainable development strategies, including plans, communications, programs of action, or other relevant instruments, where they exist. E. Describe how the project meets relevant national technical standards. F. Describe if there is duplication of the project with other funding sources. G. Describe the learning and knowledge management component to capture and disseminate lessons learned. When working with local communities, encourage them to share and showcase their activities with other communities. This provides knowledge transfer, but also greatly rises the pride of the community in their own action and supports others. H. Describe the consultative process undertaken during project preparation, with particular reference to vulnerable groups and gender considerations. EDA projects should be built from the bottom up in collaboration with local communities and stakeholders. Include the full list of stakeholders consulted. I. Provide justification for funding requested, focusing on the full cost of adaptation reasoning. J. Describe how the sustainability of the project outcomes has been taken into account during the design phase. K. Provide an overview of the environmental and social impacts and risks identified. All 11 sections, A to K, must be completed and relevant to your EDA proposal. Throughout Part 2 of the proposal, ensure compliance with the environmental and social policy and gender policy of the Adaptation Fund. The key considerations for EDA in Part 2, the project justification, are the EDA model. Project components should clearly articulate the characteristics of the EDA model and describe practical LLA solutions to funnel funding to vulnerable communities impacted by adverse climate effects. The partnerships envisaged and the roles and responsibilities must be described, alongside how funds are expected to flow. A conceptual model or flowchart can support the description provided. Enabling agency of local actors. The project must clearly demonstrate that the proposed EDA approach enables organizations at the subnational level, including small, local organizations, to identify their own adaptation needs and implement the adequate measures to address those needs. The proposal should describe how capacity-building activities will enhance the agency of local actors to design and manage sub-projects based on their identified vulnerabilities, thereby facilitating the streamlining of decision-making across multiple levels. Increased technical assistance. The project should clearly describe the arrangements for technical assistance to local project stakeholders, including specific arrangements for monitoring and oversight of project activities and fund flows. Sub-projects. It is expected that EDA projects and programs will involve sub-projects, which could be unidentified sub-projects, or USPs. If this is the case, the proposal should include a valid and rational justification for the usage of USPs, a timeline for USP identification, and the process, including stakeholders, that will be responsible for environmental and social policy compliance. Unidentified sub-projects, USPs, are subject to specific provisions under the Adaptation Fund's environmental and social policy. The objectives of USPs must be aligned with those of the project and the Adaptation Fund's results framework. The type, sector, size, and geographical areas of the USPs should be fully described. The use of location identification and criteria can be useful to show how USPs will be selected and developed in accordance with the objectives. Further guidance on USPs can be downloaded from the Adaptation Fund website under Project Documents. This guidance should be used as a tool to comply with the requirements for USPs. Part 3 of the proposal template, Implementation Arrangements, has 8 sections, A to H. For sections A to D, describe A. the arrangements for project's implementation. B. The measures for financial and project risk management. C. The measures for environmental and social risk management. And D. The monitoring and evaluation arrangements and budget. Sections A to D must be in line with the environmental and social policy and gender policy of the Adaptation Fund. E. Section E is the results framework for the project proposal, including milestones, targets, and indicators. Include one or more core outcome indicator of the Adaptation Fund's results framework and ensure compliance with the gender policy of the Adaptation Fund. F. Demonstrate how the project or program aligns with the results framework of the Adaptation Fund. G. Include a detailed budget with budget notes. Use the table provided and describe the project objectives, the project objective indicators, the fund outcome indicator, and the grant amount in US dollars. Use the information from Part 1, Components and Financing, to reiterate the budget for the implementing entity management fee and provide an explanation and a breakdown of the execution costs. H. Include a disbursement schedule with time-bound milestones. All 8 sections A to H must be completed and relevant to your EDA proposal. The key considerations for EDA in Part 3, the implementation arrangements, are a clear description of the funding model and institutional levels involved, including the approach adopted for EDA based on local contexts, needs, and preferred decision-making structure. The aim is to provide practical evidence of locally led adaptation. It is recommended that the roles and responsibilities of the implementing entity, as well as any stakeholders, are shown in a diagram or chart of the decision-making structure and how the different stakeholders in the EDA model report to each other. Implementation arrangements should include a description of how continued capacity building and multi-stakeholder engagement would be carried out throughout implementation. Part 4 of the proposal is the attached National Implementing Entity certification and the letter of endorsement by the designated authority. Both must be signed and dated. In summary, the EDA proposal template consists of 4 parts. When considering an EDA proposal, ensure each part has the relevant information. Part 1. Include enhanced direct access in the project category. Part 2. Ensure that the EDA model is clear and well aligned to the adaptation needs of the communities as well as the project aims and objectives. Unspecified sub-projects can be used with clear criteria for their development and execution. Part 3. Clearly describe the funding model to allow the flow of funds to the most vulnerable communities and state how they will be supported to build ongoing capacity. Part 4. Ensure both the endorsement and certification are properly signed and dated. Top tips to include in your EDA proposal are to clearly demonstrate that the approach facilitates the streamlining of decision-making across multiple levels. Keep adaptation at the heart of the proposal, ensuring that the EDA rationale relates back to the climate scenario, and the adaptation measures are adequate to the described climate effects. A strong proposal will clearly describe the arrangements for technical assistance to local project stakeholders, including monitoring and oversight of project activities and fund flows, how specific funding requests will be made by local beneficiaries at the subnational level, including the review and decision-making process, and the capacity building and support to communities at subnational level to effectively manage and report on funds received. A case study of the successful EDA project proposal from Rwanda. Remember that EDA project design can take many forms. The Rwanda example is one approach, but EDA must always be designed with its own country's needs. Rwanda's Enhanced Direct Access targeted 3 interrelated issues. First, given Rwanda's advanced climate landscape, there is a demand and interest in devolved national decision-making, such as offered by EDA. Second, there is a need to deliver climate finance to the most vulnerable. Third, increasing climate shocks and stresses require local adaptation solutions. The focus areas for Rwanda's proposal were chosen based on 3 steps. First, challenges and adaptation activities were taken from the priority adaptation interventions set out in the updated Rwanda Nationally Determined Contribution, the NDC, of water, agriculture, and land and forestry. Second, actions were filtered to identify those that can be delivered by local organisations. Third, stakeholder consultation workshops agreed to the focus areas and provided additional recommendations to enable greater access for local organisations. The resulting challenges that this proposal seeks to address are impacts on rural areas from climate variability and change from increased extreme rainfall, increasing water availability and periodic drought, and the effects on agriculture and livelihoods. The EDA mechanism proposes to use the existing Rwanda Climate Fund, FONERWA, as a grant manager. FONERWA will issue a dedicated call for proposals and use their existing process and staff for screening, review, and selection of projects, as well as grant management. The EDA will provide grants to district and local government and civil society organisations to deliver local adaptation funding and decision-making. The EDA grant management cycle set up in Rwanda consists of 3 stages. First, an identification and formulation stage to publicly solicit applications and provide capacity building to develop project profile documents. Second, a screening process involving a review of the developed project profile documents against the focus areas. Qualifying projects are invited to develop full project documents, and these are surveyed by FONERWA Secretariat for financial and technical capacity. Third, a decision and grant awarding stage overseen by a board of directors, which will then initiate the project and oversee implementation and evaluation. Implementation is carried out by the local actors with monitoring and evaluation from FONERWA. This flow diagram was used in the Rwanda application to showcase the process. At the time of application, sub-national district projects account for 30% of the approved projects funded by FONERWA, with central government and NGOs accounting for a further 30%, demonstrating the proposed EDA programming modality already works and can be rolled out further for this project. The EDA modality in Rwanda will directly contribute to the fund-level outcome too, as the development and application of the project and the training provided to develop proposals and manage these will deliver strengthened institutional capacity for adaptation. The projects funded by the Rwanda EDA will also lead to a set of outcomes that are expected to align, depending on the projects chosen, to Fund Level Outcome 3, Strengthened Awareness and Ownership, and Output 6, Targeted Individual and Community Livelihood Strategies. Let's review the EDA proposal learning in this training. In the EDA proposal template, which part has the most sections? It's part 2 with 11 sections. Where would you put a decision-making chart showing the stakeholders involved? Part 3 contains a decision-making chart. One important thing to do in Part 1 is to add the words Enhanced Direct Access to the project category. Don't forget to add the signed letter of endorsement and implementing entity validation. Remember that there are many examples of EDA. You can refresh these or find out more by watching the EDA training video that accompanies this one. Thank you for participating in the EDA project proposal template training.